Oh, just hovering in the air, gets scooped. All right, this is pretty much Kami's last chance here. He might dead angle poorly. Nope, just gets thrown.
Baiting him out.
Yeah, Kyohei knows. Counter hit. Blitz, nope, gets thrown. Hey! And Marlin Pie, PG Marlin Pie is your East Coast Throwdown 2018 Guilty Gear champion.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here. I am at Red Bull Conquest, the finals, and I'm here with Guilty Gear legend Marlin Pie. How the hell are you?
I'm alright. I'm drinking Red Bull. Pretty hype.
We're all drinking Red Bull. We're all pretty hype about that. Lots of free Red Bull around right at the moment. Talking of this event, Conquest, it's brand new, right? It's a multi-game format. How do you feel about this event and what it does for players, for spectators, for Guilty Gear?
When I first heard that Red Bull Conquest is including Guilty Gear in their lineup, I was more than excited because not only it was a chance for me to go play and go take Red Bull Conquest, it was a great thing for the community. It's exposure. Guilty Gear might be like the one of the most popular anime games out there, but the exposure to the the fighting game community is actually not that big because
it's not as strong at the moment. I mean, it's kind of a at the moment the game doesn't have a lot of news going on, and we'll get into that. So it's this event I think is important for Guilty Gear. Is that would you say that?
Yeah, we are definitely lacking in player base. The stream, I saw the stream and it was getting like thousands of viewers, and it's pretty rare for a game like Guilty Gear to get like rake in a lot of viewers to begin with. And now that Red Bull Conquest is picking it up, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be a brighter future for Guilty Gear. That's one thing I appreciate about the event, and how they executed the events in multiple locations. They took care of players that qualified. Everything like the perks and the setups, everything that they've done for I guess like not limited to Guilty Gear, but for fighting game players in general is great. I really appreciate this event as a whole.
So Guilty Gear itself is, some people have described it as being almost on hiatus, right? Because not a lot has happened. There was a patch at the beginning of the year, no new characters or anything like that. And then Evo, they said, we're working on something Guilty Gear. So people aren't really sure whether it's a sort of new Xrd, an extension, or like a new game. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes or concerns? I mean, they also talked about accessibility, right? And potentially removing some mechanics. What's going on in your head right now about the prospect of a new Guilty Gear?
Well, I've definitely heard some rumors and apparently leaks from the production side, which I won't get into. Obviously nothing's confirmed, but like the leaks are there, and it's sounding really weird to pre-existing Guilty Gear player because according to the information that we're getting, Guilty Gear as a game is gonna change and get closer to their more other artist games like Persona 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and I personally would not prefer to play Guilty Gear in that way, so I hope they're not true, but I do think a patch is necessary. Like a patch is definitely in demand right now in the current version of Guilty Gear because there are obvious bugs that hasn't been addressed yet, and the balance of the characters aren't exactly right. I guess some top tiers were buffed even more, while other lower tiers are for some reason nerfed. I don't know how they determine the balancing process, but it's kind of they're in the previous patch. I feel like they were just pouring oil into fire or something. It's kind of messy. It's a great game. I wish if there was a little bit of attention to, rough edges.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, to me it sounds like you're gonna get a new game, right? So I don't know that you're gonna get the patch that you're asking for, but I mean, I hope you do. I want to talk a little bit about before we get more into you. I want to talk about a bit more about the esports side of it, because of course they announced the ArcRevo Tour, right? What are your thoughts around that? There was an announcement, and I think there's been a little confusion, maybe. I mean, have you wrapped your head around what's going on?
In the beginning, they were contradicting themselves with the information that they announced at like Evo or E3 events. Not E3, I'm sorry, TGS. Yeah, TGS. And what they had on the website were actually like directly in contradiction. So we were wondering what the truth was and everything. We just wanted to get like the correct format. We just wanted to get an idea of what the plan of the whole tournament is going to be, but we were just unclear. And I believe they also couldn't clarify themselves either. Among all the confusion, I wasn't that worried, because as long as there's that event at the end, and as long as I know that we can get the points by going to the specified tournaments that they announced, if you just think about it without overthinking about it, it's just get points and then go to this tournament. So as long as that's there, I'm fine with it. I'm planning to go to all those tournaments that, well, not literally everything, but most of them that I can go to, that gives me points, and then I'm definitely planning to qualify and go to Japan for the finals. I know there are a lot of concerns from other players about the clarity of what they released so far, but it's their first time running this Pro Tour for Guilty Year, and it's a Pro Tour for Guilty Year, for Christ's sakes. It's really like, I've been playing this game for about 20 years, and this is the first time Guilty Gear has ever done anything like this. Okay. So I appreciate it. I'm pretty psyched about it. If you're just complaining endlessly about the the clarity of the event, that's just too spoiled. I'm greatly thankful that this is happening.
Right, you're appreciative of the intention and the effort, and hopefully those things will iron themselves out. I mean, I think it's pretty awesome. I was very excited when they announced the tour, particularly because it's across 3 games, Blaze Blue, and BB Tag, and unfortunately not Unist, but because that's the one that everyone keeps talking about. But yeah, I think overall exciting. Now let's talk about your character, ZATO. So I believe you were, and probably still are, the best ZATO in the US, and then he was nerfed heavily at the beginning of the year. Then he moved over to Eno. I guess the switch was due to the nerf, but why Eno?
Because Eno, I used to play this game called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I specialized in playing Viper as a point character. And Eno, the freedom you get with Eno's movements, mobility, combos, well, just generally, the general freedom that she gets is very similar to the character that I used to play in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which was like my absolute favorite character in like probably every fighting game ever, Crimson Viper. So I always wanted to play him. I actually played him a little bit back in the days when Guilty Gear Reload was out. This is like actually back in the days, like 15 years ago. Yeah. I guess I still had a little bit of memory from when I used to play her. I definitely picked up the character fairly quickly. It's been about 3 months right now, and I'm here using that character, and I just qualified for top 8 using that character. And I don't think I could have done it with current state of ZATO. Unfortunately, I definitely tried. I definitely tried to make ZATO work. I tried. So the things that changed about ZATO weren't exactly just nerfs. They nerfed his overpowered things, and they buffed his non-used thing, which in their eyes was probably like a balancing thing for Eddie. I mean ZATO, but this thing that they nerfed, this thing that they buffed was just actually just unusable. It's a super cool great white. They keep buffing that, but it's just not usable. And ZATO, like 3 patches in a row, he just keeps getting nerfed. So I just couldn't take the beating anymore. I was to perform consistently at big tournaments where I have to play consistent against every type of players and every character. I just had to go with my gut at the moment, and I knew that Eno was a great fit for me, so I just had to make the leap, and it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you're considered the best Eno in the US, I think, now. So, I mean, that's what I'm told anyway. You mentioned, funnily enough, I did want to talk a little bit about MVC3. There's a few things to talk about, really. I mean, one is, do you still play that game for fun?
I actually turned that game on about a month ago because I saw at NLBC that they were reviving MVC3 tournaments. I was like, wow, I can't believe they still play this game. And then I turned it on, I played around with it, and I could see that I couldn't do the combos that I used to be able to do. But I played it for like an hour and a half, and it all came back. And then I was looking at other channels that's posting UMVC videos, and I was like, wow, are they really just trying to make this game alive again? And I don't know the current state, but if this game revives in the fighting game community, I would love to play that game. That game is definitely like my top 3 fighting games that I've ever touched. I've touched like tens, maybe like yeah, definitely tons of fighting games, and that UMVC game, that is my top 2 or 3. Okay. Yeah.
How did you react to MVCI? I mean, you can be honest. It's fine. It's kind of it is what it is, right? Like
I was definitely excited in the beginning because it was a new Marvel, and Marvel 3 unfortunately was purged because Disney purchased the rights to mess with Marvel in general. So the patching process of UMVC kind of stopped. So I was very sad, and then they announced the MVCI, and I was like super excited, but it was not the Marvel that I loved. It's not the Marvel that everybody knew as Marvel. Yeah, I guess they reverted all the way back to the beginning. Like that style was, I believe that style was, I forgot which version of Marvel it was, but that existed. But I just can't believe they reverted back and they changed like tons of mechanics that the recent Marvel games had. So to be honest, I was a little disappointed, and I had to quit that game to concentrate on other games because I wasn't enjoying it that much. Yeah.
Okay. Sea Viper,
yeah.
Right? I think you said maybe Sea Viper is your favorite character ever. Okay, so here's a question for you. It's quite a wild one, really, given that you're not. I don't think you're playing this game currently, but at the end of this weekend, by the end of the time this video comes out, I'm sure they will tease maybe one character, and then at Capcom Cup, they're gonna. I'm talking about Street Fighter now, obviously, you know. And one of the big rumors, or one of the big wants or desires, or one of the things that seems to make sense is Sea Viper. So if Sea Viper appears in Street Fighter 5, are you going to pick up the fight stick and give it a go?
If she rewards you if she still rewards you for being able to execute the things that other people may not be able to execute. I like characters that reward you for the amount of time you put into the character, the creativity you can express with the character that you're using. I like those characters. I don't want to play a character that you can just like, I don't know, retroactively or like reactionarily press buttons and just that's the fight style of this character. I don't like those characters. I like flexible, open characters that reward you for being able to execute the things that character is capable of, and that's Sea Viper. Sea Viper was definitely the top 3 hardest characters I've touched in fighting games. So, and she definitely rewarded you for the things that you're doing, and I just loved that. It looked cool. It was it was fun to execute, and it's a great feeling.
Are you talking about both in 4 and in Marvel, or just in Marvel?
Yeah, actually both. Yeah, Street Fighter 4's Viper was difficult in another way that as the UMVC version of Viper.
You enjoyed both.
Yeah, I especially UMVC version of Viper. Yeah, if that happened, but if they release Viper and keep her as she was in Street Fighter 4, I would love that. I would definitely play her and play the game, play Street Fighter 5.
Wow. All right, well, there you go. Not that they can change anything now. I'm sure it's all done and dusted if she's in Season 4. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. I hope that does happen. Let's talk about execution, because you brought that up, right? So that's something else that people said to me, where they said, you're going to interview Marlin Pie. That guy has great execution, right? So what is that? Is that, to you, is that challenging? Is it natural to you? Do you have, and if not, do you have recommendations on how people, this is for me, I gotta tell you, my execution is terrible. So do you have recommendations on how to get better at execution?
I guess execution is like a really open-ended thing, because it's not just how accurately you do things. It's not just how fast you can do things. I feel like it's a matter of being able to do what you are accurately doing what you intended to do, and it just happens that my intentions in fighting games just happens to be very fast and very I guess bombastic, and from the viewer's side, it just looks like I'm doing really hard, really difficult things. In many cases, I am doing difficult things, but I can see the major difference between how I like to play on the joystick and how everybody else likes to play on the joystick. The general fighting game players, the amount of force that they put into movements and bump presses, it's just the joystick's not designed to be pressed that hard, and to be honest, if you wanna quickly execute or flexibly execute the things that you are trying to execute, you need to relax your muscles. You need you can't use your muscles. I played a lot of instruments growing. I played piano from age 3 to age 18. I played drums after that. I played a lot of instruments, and I know what using muscle does to your dexterity side, I guess. Relax your shoulders, relax your forearms, relax your wrists. Let your hand rest on the joystick instead of floating them up like this. So the use of strength is very much different. It is the major difference between me and I guess other players. I guess that's one thing, and I have different practice routines that I do for things that I'm trying to execute, that I'm trying to learn at the moment. And I have a pretty obsessive personality, and if I can't do something, I will not stop until I can do that something.
Oh wow!
Yeah, okay. and this relaxing muscle thing while using joystick is definitely something that I noticed from like, you know, trial and error. It's like a common knowledge in playing piano, but if I thought about it when I was just trying to execute this thing in a fighting game, and the difference, the success rate of me being able to do that thing and me not being able to do that thing, and if I thought about it and compared how much strength I'm using, it was just clear that using strength was not the answer. So I stuck with that theory for like a decade or two, and I guess right now I have a really good form of how I execute things. So I guess that's why people know me as I have good execution.
That's super insightful for me, because funnily enough, I remember watching a training video from actually somebody I love who's a very good player, who probably doesn't have the execution you have, who said press everything hard because muscle memory, that's how muscle memory works, kind of thing. I don't want to misquote the person, but I remember it was like, hit the buttons hard because the muscle memory sticks better, you know, like in your head. And so now, but I've been thinking more and more about execution recently, because, you know, I've been messing up, particularly with the stick, you know, like in terms of how I want to dash and have complete control over the character. I think that's a little underestimated by people, because you can, you know, like, particularly, whatever, even just Street Fighter V, it's like there's so much dashing at specific times, you know. And it's one of those things that, you know, you've been playing for 20 years at a certain level, so not a problem for you, and air dashing and instant air dashing and all that sort of stuff, but it's very much been on my mind, so that is actually really helpful for me. Now, we could do a whole video on it, but let's talk about I guess some of your proudest moments, maybe, or your proudest moment. You recently won ECT, which congratulations on that. I believe you made top 8 at EVO in 2016 and beat Ogawa, is that right?
I lost to Ogawa.
My intel was wrong.
I got to top 8, and then I had to play against the previous year's champion. Yeah.
Right. Of course, that was the year before was when the guy stood up. What's his name? The Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Shige stood up. Ogawa. Okay. Yeah. Wow, the lore. It's amazing. Is that your proudest moment? What is your proudest moment in fighting games over the vast amount of years that you've played? Does anything stick out? It doesn't even have to be a tournament, doesn't it? Like, in your mind.
Proudest moment. I think my proudest moment was as I was growing up, I played fighting games a little, like, I guess to my parents' eyes, a little too much.
Yeah.
I would come back from school and like practice Guilty Gear, just kind of do the homework later, like after I play Guilty Gear, and there were times that my parents didn't agree with the amount of time I spent with fighting games.
Yeah.
And that was like a burden to me. I kind of like had second thoughts about playing fighting games, but originally, like, I knew I was good at it. I knew I loved it, and I loved going to tournaments. I loved the scene, and I continued doing it. But and then I got in 2007, I got sponsored, and I pretty much I placed very high in every tournament I entered, and I got picked up by FIC, AG, BT, and finally PG, and my parents finally like told me that they were it's kind of emotional moment. It wasn't like an emotional moment for me, but they told me they apologized. They were sorry that they tried to make me stop playing fighting games at some point. And yeah, they were like, we should have believed that you knew what you were doing. You for sure knew that you were like better than other people. You enjoyed it. You were good at it. And I made I made an impact to my life playing fighting games, and they like fully accepted, they fully embraced me, embraced the fact that I played that much fighting games. So and they just pretty much gave me the approval of fighting games, and that was probably the moment for me playing fighting games in my life, I guess.
Yeah, they gave you the green light, basically. That's a wonderful story. Thanks for sharing it. That's it's hard, when you're growing up and your parents are telling you this is a waste of time, and you sort of want to trust their experience, but at the same time, there's something inside you telling you that what you're doing is right. I mean, I often ask that question, is like, why on earth would you have pursued fighting games at a time when there were no esports and all this sort of stuff? And it's a hard question for people to answer, but I think a lot of it lies in passion and what have you. I did want to go back and say quickly that musical instruments and fighting game players seem to have seems to be a big link. There's a lot of players who are very strong and very good execution who grew up playing musical instruments, and I think that's people who watch a lot of my videos get bored of me pointing this out, but I think that's because it's a similar sort of thing. The practice required, the timing, the rhythm, all of that stuff is very similar, and you, I think, summed it up perfectly. Going to jump backwards a little bit now and just throw some random questions at you. The game Marlin Pie, that's a gamer tag, right? So tell me about that.
I get this question all the time, but it's like a really boring story.
You can give the short version, that's fine.
Okay, the short version is I used to play Counter-Strike, and my name used to be Merling. My name was MERLING. It wasn't Marlin Pie. And I belonged on a clan called Pie. So my name was PIE Merling. And then after I stopped playing for that team, I reverted back to just Merling, and I was like, wow, this name is just kind of lonely. It's like one word. Maybe I should get something at the end of my name, and I just took that. I liked the team Pie, how to sound, so I took that at the end of my Merling, and then I was like, what the hell is Merling Pie? And I was like, and then Marlin Pie exists. It's an Italian cuisine. Oh, really? Yeah, it is. So I just kind of, altered my name to make sense out of it. And yeah, that's how my name was born.
It just sounded nice.
I guess so. And I was only like 11 or something. Yeah.
Okay. So you were playing other games which weren't fighting games. So what led you to focus on fighting games? Or what is it about fighting games that potentially you prefer?
I actually didn't play single-player games that much. Ever since I was 3 years old, my first video game, my first video, the big console, like family computer, what is it called? NES?
Yeah, SNES.
Yes. NES.
Oh, the NES? Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah. My first game on NES was Street Fighter 2.
The Super Nintendo. Okay.
Oh, the Super Nintendo. Yeah. The franchise name changed from like American market and Japanese market. And I'm still confused.
Famicom in Japan.
Yeah, Famicom. There you go. And Super Famicom.
Sorry, Super Famicom. Oh my God.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true. You need the Super. You need the Super in front, and you got it.
Yeah. And when I was 3, I was like playing against my brother and my.
Were you in Japan when you were 3?
Yeah, I was born in Japan. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. And I just loved it, and I played a lot, and I was like getting competitive with my 4-year-old brother. As I was 3 years old, I was labbing. I was like trying to perfect the fireball motion because like that obsessive personality. I already had that personality when I was 3, so I didn't stop until I could do like 20 fireballs in a row. Right. And I was 3 years old, just trying to execute this stupid fireball motion, quarter circle forward punch, quarter circle forward punch, and I managed to do it like 16 times in a row at one point. and it was like after my kindergarten was over or something, and then I was so proud that I went to my brother's elementary school. I just walked up to the elementary school, and I just had to tell my brother I did Hadouken Fireball 16 times in a row. Anyway, so fighting game was my first like game that I really got obsessed with, and I just kind of stuck with it.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess.
So
yeah.
it links back to the execution and the obsession with the execution in a way. Was there a big sibling rivalry?
Back in the days, yeah. We were about the same strength, but I forgot when, but it was just clear that I would get a little better, a little better than him in almost every fighting game that we played, eventually. So it kind of got like redundant for me. You know, I would just keep beating my brother, and like he just has almost no chance of beating me. So I started going to tournaments. I aimed higher. I wanted to learn, the real ways to play the games that I played. And I noticed that I was like bad. I was like not playing the game right, and then and then my obsessive personality kicked in. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like beat these guys, and I'm not gonna stop until I beat these guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, nothing went on. You reminded me of the Chris T interview. Like, there's a lot of interviews I had recently where lots of similar things have come up: sibling rivalries, playing music, and then this obsessiveness of like, I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna keep going, and keep going and keep going until I beat you.
I guess it's called like mastery-oriented personality. But sometimes it hits me negatively. Like I would like forget about the time and just keep practicing one thing. And like I've gotten like soft case of arthritis from practicing this game called Fate Unlimited Codes, which helped my execution a lot. I think like thanks to that game, I can execute the things that I can execute now. Because compared to that game, everything in every fighting game is nothing. That game is the most difficult fighting game that you can possibly play on planet Earth.
What's it called?
Fate Unlimited Codes.
Okay.
I played this character called Assassin and Archer, and they were very difficult. Their combos were so hard that I couldn't believe it in the beginning. I couldn't believe the things that you had to do one combo that those characters could do. And and then I just looked around the internet, and I noticed that there are some humans who can do these combos, and I was like, wow, I need to be one of them. I have to be one of them. These look so cool that this gotta help my execution. And I just practiced like hours, and then I got like a soft, mild case of arthritis in my left hand.
Timing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was definitely to your detriment. Okay. So let's talk about. I want to talk a little bit about, because you grew up in Japan, right? You came to the US. When did you come to the US?
I came to the US when I was 10, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you haven't gone back. You've been here ever since.
Yeah, I'm actually a U.S. citizen, and I visit sometimes.
Yeah.
Last time I visited was, I guess, 3 years ago for ArcRevo,
Okay.
but yeah.
So I think you'd be a good person to ask this question, which is, how do you feel the US stacks up against Japan in regards to Guilty Gear right now?
The playing environment is just so different. Like, I see people who play a lot against other people and get really good. Actually, that's how I got better in Guilty Gear. I pretty much lived with 4 top Guilty Gear players in the country at the moment. I think it was like 2007-ish, I think 2006-ish, and we just played Guilty Gear all the time, and we just got so good that like no one could touch us. Japan has arcades everywhere, and people still go to the arcades, and they're like great environment to hang out. peak gamers are there. You can just play each other on those on the setups, on like the multiple setups they have. I mean, obviously you have to pay a little bit of money, but it's like lagless experience. It's like a hangout. They can play a wide range of top character specialists from different regions at arcades, and not only arcades. Their online environment is also perfect, like seamless. I watched like Japanese or Korean players playing against each other, and the drop frame or the lag that they show is always 1 to 2. In the US, it jumps from like 3 to 6 to whatever, and it's just inconsistent, and people just get sick of it, and you can't really play forever with that kind of lag. But they can, which is a huge advantage. As long as you can, play against like great players, you just have to get better. You will get better as long as you have a competitive mindset. I'm. Part of me blames the environment of being able to play the game in the United States, but part of me also knows that a lot of top Japanese Guilty Gear players are very competitive. I would talk to like the Guilty Gear players in the U.S. and the mindset, the competitive mindset, the hunger is like a different. Some people play for money, for sure. In the United States, you can play for money, but in Japan, you can't. Even if you win a tournament, you don't win money because it's illegal to gamble in Japan, and the tournament is considered to be gambling.
Yes.
Right, and but they still want to get better than everybody else out there, and like that mind. I don't know what it is, but that mindset is just so prominent in the Guilty Gear community, Japanese Guilty Gear community, that they just, and plus they have the environment, so they have the mindset and the environment. Like what can we do about that? Like that's just like letting loose like hungry, like super hungry hounds into like a meat party, or I don't even know. It's just.
Well, is there any way of changing that situation, or is that just like that's the way it is and that's the way it's always going to be?
Well, I can't say this is the idealistic way, but I did this. I lived with Guilty Gear players for a few months and just grinded Guilty Gear. That, like, I wish if I could do. By the way, as I was playing like fighting games, it's not like I totally forgot about everything else in my life. I was in school. I kept my job. I didn't stop working towards my career, the non-fighting game career, which is software engineering, I guess. But if this is possible, say if there's like a sponsored house somewhere or a sponsored community area that you can go, I guess by paying a small fee to keep the place alive and just play against each other whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like that kind of environment would be idealistic. I wouldn't say necessary, but that would be idealistic for the growth of fighting game, Guilty Gear community.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, I would love that. I would definitely go to.
It's to recreate what's going on in Japan, because they're doing it optimally. And they do it in esports. Like they have houses like in all sorts of different esports, and that's how it works.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is like, I guess an arcade, right? Arcade with those games in there, but we just don't have them. So if we can't do arcade, I'm just saying like a venue where like setups are there. I lost track of this. The original question was the...
No, it was really about where America is, where Japan is. I mean, it seems pretty clear what you're saying is the Japanese have an advantage I've spoken to other people who feel like the gap between the Japanese and the Americans is smaller than it has been in the past. And I think really where I was going with it was like, what else do Americans need to do to potentially be there or be the best, you know? And I think you've explained it. I think what you've said is like, in your mind, it would take either arcades to be there, or the dedication to be in a house with a bunch of other people and playing on a regular basis. Or, you know, I spoke to, I think, Ryan Hunter earlier, who said he gets to play 3 to 4 times at a local with his friends. So he almost has that environment. So you both have similar answers, to be honest. But you don't think Americans are quite there yet. But who knows? Like, in the future, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like where there are locals, there's a top player. I became a top player because I had a local that I could look forward to every week, every 2 weeks, and just go to a tournament and play casuals, prepare for the next tournament. Ryan Hunter obviously has a local. He's a top player there. Hitachi lives there. He also goes to the local. So where there are locals, they will breed top players. So being able to get locals going on for your local community is just the best thing you can do in any region. I wouldn't be surprised if like an unknown area breeds like a top player because they just started local, and this guy just happened to be like really into the game, but he just couldn't really come out and play games. But like if you rule out like being able to go to like majors, like not being able to go to majors, and just being able to go to locals and get your confidence up, get your skill level up, be present in the community, and I'm pretty sure that's like a good starter.
I totally agree. Now, so since this place is closing down soon, and I've got a few more questions for you. Do you have a favorite player out there, somebody who really inspires you, and why? It could be all time, any game.
Like general fighting game player?
Yeah.
Inspires me.
Is there anyone you look up to, or maybe it's just someone you enjoy watching right now? I'm just trying to figure out, like, whenever I ask this of all players, I'm always wondering which players are the players watching.
I definitely cannot say like this person is my favorite player and I look up to this person. There are multiple people that I admire. Let's start with the current ones because they change fairly often. Yeah.
Go for it.
Currently, I love watching, like because I started playing Eno in Guild of the Year. I look at all the Guild of the Year players. Eno players out there, and this one player really sticks out to me. His name is Turio, and he plays at Mikado. The tech he has is not just the things that he shows. Because I play the character, I can kind of understand what he intended to do, what he's doing, while he's doing, like it's so hard to explain. The things that he's option selecting, the things that he's worried about, the knowledge that player has is just admirable. I really want to get to that level of Eno knowledge, and how he executes whatever he executes with Eno is just such a treat to watch every time. And like lately, if there's a Mikado video out there or any Guild of Gear video out there, I'll like quickly like skim through the video and just check if that guy's playing. And if he's playing, I'm like, he's playing. I gotta rewind the video back to the beginning and then just watch the whole thing and just anticipate that he's gonna.
Have you had a chance to play him yet with your Eno?
No, I've played him with my ZATO. I've won a few times. He's won most. We actually play We actually played at Mikado when I went to Mikado. He has never been to Evo.
Okay.
I wish if I could see him play or maybe like talk to him about gameplay in general.
Sure.
Yeah, I have something similar for Daru. Daru's another player from Korea that plays a fairly different style of and I just seem to, I guess, like agree with Tour's play style a little more. Daru is definitely good in his own way, but I steal bits and pieces of what Daru does. I can pretty much. Actually, he streams. He streams personally, so yeah, he kind of like explains what he's thinking and everything.
What he's doing.
Yeah.
So, are there any legends that you think of, like over the past 20 years, that you go, okay, this person inspired me?
Actually, no. I don't think so. I don't
think so. You always it was always you just wanted to be the best.
Yeah, I guess so. Like
that's okay. That's fine. That's the win. That's the winner's mindset. There's a lot of people. A lot of players often say that. They're like, actually, no. But it's good that you've got those are interesting players for people to look out for and to watch. I think, particularly if they play Eno.
I just say one thing about that though. Admire. I guess like I think of admiration as like a totally different feeling. Like if I admire one of the players that's here, right?
Yeah.
And if I play that person, that admiration in my head is gonna mess with me. I'm pretty sure. If you admire this player and if you just one day go up against that player, you're gonna be trying to impress or trying to not make yourself embarrassed or trying to just it's just gonna mess up your gameplay. So I guess part of me wants to not admire anyone. I gotta say, in the beginning, I definitely, when I went up against the Japanese players that I always watched and always copied stuff from, they started coming to EVO, and I actually went to Japan and played them. And I remember how awful my movement was because I was like afraid to mess up in front of them and stuff. So I guess like part of me actively tries to not, admire the players that I potentially have to play against in big tournaments. Yeah.
Well, I get that as a concept. I'm going to ask you one last question, then we're going to wrap it up because we got to go. The event is quiet as hell now, you probably know. And we could talk forever, so maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point. I do want to ask you one question because you're a very thoughtful person. I ask this of a lot of people. It's a bit of a curveball question for some, but do you have a quote or mantra or perhaps a way of you think about life? I always like this question because you're an extraordinary person in regards to never giving up. Do you have something like that? Like, are there moments in life where you're feeling maybe a bit down, or you're feeling like maybe this is impossible? Do you have something that you go to that you think of?
When I face like a brick wall, I guess what I think of is what has been actually impossible for me to achieve, and I'm like unrealistic things aside, like making $1 billion or whatever, like being able to do this one thing, being able to play this instrument, being able to execute whatever you want. I set my own goal in my head and I work towards that goal, and that's like there could be steps towards that goal, but it's possible. If it's not impossible. Say you are trying to play piano, right? And you can't possibly say, I am incapable of playing piano because I don't play piano, or like because I'm not just capable of being able to play piano. That's just not true. It's the mindset that the general people have, I guess. Like,
yeah.
Like giving up is giving up is the worst thing you can do to yourself, right? If you give up on something that you want to do, you're pretty much just shutting down. Like, where's the fun? If you, the challenge, like human brain feeds on fun, right? There's like a theory of fun, but I forgot who the philosopher or the psychologist was, but he claims that fun comes from challenges, and if everything is too easy, your life's boring. And I totally agree with that. I love failing. I love failing to do something, and I love succeeding to, achieve that goal.
Yeah.
I want to play the drums. Oh, damn, I can't play drums. I'll practice until I play the drums. Oh, nice, I can play the drums. Stuff like that. That goes for everything that I've tried to do in fighting games, I guess. I wanted to have one of the best execution in the world, and
you do.
I guess I'm up there now. Yeah.
So I mean, and that I think that's wonderful advice. That's actually inspired me, because there's a lot of times when I'm just like, oh god, I don't know if I can do this, and I give myself so many excuses why I can't. So many ways out, and so I think that's a wonderful piece of advice for people out there. And unfortunately, we can't keep going. I would love to, and maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime. But for now, I got to say thanks so much for the interview. And we're going to say goodbye to these guys. Bye, guys.